everybody. Welcome to the Talking Disney podcast. And this is a show where we like to talk about the Disney canon every month. It's so much fun. I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Stanford's here.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing good, good. And today we have a special guest. We have my friend Larry Chilson is here. And Larry, why don't you've been on my show many times, but the first time on Talking Disney. So why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, so as Rachel said, my name is Larry. I have a YouTube channel called Chillyboy Productions, as well as obviously on Twitter and Instagram, because, you know, if you're a social media person, you have to kind of be all around. But I love animation. I love Disney. Not a year goes by, I think, that I don't have at least one animated film in my top 10 favorite films of the year. It's very, very rare that I don't even have like two at least up there. Last year I had two. And yeah, I had seen almost all of the Disney canon when coming into this podcast. Just those really early package films had escaped me. I realized as I watched them, I had seen a couple of the short films individually, just randomly throughout the years, but I had never seen them as a, well, I don't know if I can call some of those films cohesive packages, but I hadn't seen them as packages in general. So
Well,
I'm excited to have seen all of the Disney canon.
Yes, congratulations.
Well, and they had a lot of those shorts on the sing-alongs that at least I watched all the time. Like they had Peter and the Wolf and things like that were on the sing-along that they would do with the professor. What's the professor duck?
Ludwig von Drake.
Yes.
Yes.
I think in some cases those sing-alongs were probably better than the actual package films.
Yeah.
But I think that's true. But what do you think is special about the medium of animation, and in particular Disney, Walt Disney animated films over the years? What do you think makes it stand out?
I think really animation in general is such a special medium because it even with all of the technological advancements we've made, you know, obviously watching things like Avatar, The Way of Water or something, we can do so much with computer generated images to make them look real life. But I still think even through all of that, animation just allows you to tell stories you can't tell in other forms of storytelling. I mean, your imagination basically can run wild in how you want to interpret and tell this story that you've crafted. And I think it just makes the medium such a special part of the film landscape, the television landscape, media by and large. And I'm so glad that it's an ongoing fight, obviously, because we seem to have this discussion every year at award season. But I'm so glad, like this past year, we had a respected filmmaker in the live action world, like Guillermo del Toro, who pretty much made it his mission in every single speech that he made to drive home that point of the respect that animation deserves as a medium. And I'm so glad he did that. But Disney specifically has just, unlike maybe any other studio, why they're so beloved is they just have been able to, one, brand themselves with magic, but it's because they kind of created these films that lend themselves to transporting the viewer into this magical place. They obviously have taken a lot from open domain stories and fairy tales and kind of rejudged them, if you will, for their stories. But the through line is heart and just kind of that sense of awe and wonder that they bring into the fold.
Yeah, I agree. And that has been really wonderful this last season too. I mean, I loved Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, but especially just seeing him champion animation, that animation is cinema, especially when you have people like Bob Chapek saying that adults aren't interested in watching Pinocchio or The Little Mermaid. It just
He should be fired.
Yeah, he should be fired.
Wait.
Oh, wait.
It's got to be tough, man, to be an animator and to hear your bosses saying stuff like that, and hear them talking about how the live action films are going to be so much more elevated and than the animated classics. And it's like, why are you even remaking them if they're so terrible, so it must just be really frustrating that no matter how great your product is that you make, it's still going to be kind of dismissed by some. So I've been glad to see that with Guillermo del Toro. But what do you think, Stanford, as far as the power of animation as a medium?
Well, I think animation is cinema, and it's a wonderful medium to be able to tell great stories. And I just to echo what both of you were saying, I'm so happy that Pinocchio did as well as it did, and that Guillermo del Toro is out there spreading the good word. I hope some people are listening to him. You and I have talked about this, Rachel, but there is so much great animation available, probably more than any other time, at least in my lifetime. And I just say, bring it on. Let's champion it and enjoy it.
Well, Larry, what do you think is valuable about watching the complete canon? Because there's some people like, oh, I don't want to watch Home on the Range or one of these terrible films. What do you think you get out of watching the whole canon?
Well, I think one thing interesting about Disney, so getting to finally watch the package film specifically, I think it's kind of like a time capsule of the state of the US and the state of the world, as you watch through from Snow White all the way through up into Strange World just this past year. You just see the evolution of culture through through watching Disney, seeing, obviously, we give them a little bit of flack, but they did the best they could with those package films because of the war, and they made the best of a situation that was affecting the whole world. And then we get down through the 80s and this really dark period with Disney, obviously the beautiful renaissance of the 90s, and that also is quite reflective of the economy and other social issues happening out in the world. Now, 2000s obviously starts with the Pixar thing. It starts in Disney's own history, that the huge fall off in quality of the 2000s Disney projects. But even the representation and obviously the characters that are being depicted, the stories that are being told, it's just fascinating to get to see the evolution of it all.
I agree. And there's just certain things that you realize when you're watching the whole canon. I didn't until I watched we'll talk about the golden era. Until I watched the original first group of films, I didn't really realize how bold Walt Disney really was, because it would have been so easy to have just made a whole bunch of princess movies after Snow White was a hit. And now he's like, nope, I'm not going to do that. He's like, we're going to make this concert film, and we're going to make this weird Pinocchio film, and we're going to I think that is very admirable. And something that maybe he doesn't get that much credit for is how bold he was as a filmmaker.
Well, I think particularly in some of those early ones, obviously, it gets a little overshadowed with some of the more controversial aspects of its time. So things like Dumbo or some of these packaged films, Song of the South, which we're not talking about here because it's not animated. But I think those films get a lot of people's attention, and for the negative aspects that were of their era. But I agree, and I also just love that Disney has always made a pretty concerted effort to uplift animals and the environment, right? From Bambi and all those early films. Animal conservation has kind of been a staple of these animated films.
That's true. That's a good point.
True.
What do you think, Stanford, is valuable about watching the whole canon, even the bad movies?
Well, I really appreciate what Larry's bringing up, is that, number one, it's really important to have the historical perspective. I think that really helps in the appreciation of all the films. And I think you both can see part of U.S. history within the Disney films, but also the history informs your own viewing of us. But and then just be able to have like the whole, and then also like the history of the Walt Disney Company too. It just gives you a whole snapshot. And plus, it's just a fun accomplishment. That you can just say, "I did it." I suffered through through the films I didn't want to see, or Home on the Range.
Yeah,
Chicken Little.
Our last watch through, Larry, we did it through the random number generator.
Yeah.
So that we wouldn't have to be in one of those eras where it was brutal. It could
just being stuck in it, for weeks.
We have both already done it. I did. Yeah. This was actually my third watch through this last time that we did it. So I was like, I've done it. I know what it's like. And I want to different. Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night, or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies. Let's talk about the golden era. So that's Snow White through Bambi. And Larry, what is your favorite and least favorite?
The golden era. My favorite film in here is probably not a lot of people's favorite film in here. It's just that's my favorite animal, and I still contend he is the cutest character in all of Disney animation. So Dumbo is my favorite from the golden age. Again, I know it has some very cringy racial things in it these days. But even with that, I think the story is just so cute. Obviously, it's about acceptance and being an outsider, which is something that speaks to, I know, many of us. It speaks to me. And Baby Mine is one of the most heartbreaking sequences.
Oh, it's the ball fest, right? Like,
oh my gosh, what is going on?
Just rips your heart out. It's so well done.
It's so good. I think the animation is gorgeous. There is, there's some weirdness in here too. I mean, we get drunk with a baby elephant. And
well, the thing, Disney loved an inebriated character. They really did. You got it in Robin Hood, you got it in Sleeping Beauty, you got it in.
I love it.
Cinderella, I think, has it. Yeah, they love that getting sloshed. Pinocchio.
Well, and then my least favorite, I would say, from the golden era, it's a tough one because I go up and down on a couple of these, but ultimately I think I have Pinocchio as my least favorite. I just have never really particularly loved the donkey sequence specifically. I do not. I'm like, it's horrifying, but like in the worst way. Where I'm like, okay, well, this is a little bit much. And especially, maybe it's just like the overtime bias, because it's one of those that's just been done so much compared to, we've gotten quite a few Snow White stories, but I would say nowhere near compared to the amount of Pinocchio stories we've had told over time. And I do think this original Disney one is still one of the best. I think it's probably up there like top 2, top 3 for me still. But it just never quite hit me like the rest.
Well, that's why it just boggled my mind with this Zemeckis one, that they make the characters drink root beer instead of like getting rid of the child trafficking. like them drinking beer is a line that they're not going to cross these days, but turning them into
the donkey child trafficking. We got to keep that part in.
Keep that in.
Yeah. I mean, the Zemeckis one definitely made me appreciate the animated one a lot more.
Seriously.
Better on literally every single front.
Every single.
Yeah. But it's just a fun era. I would say Bambi's probably 2 for me in this. You see, again, me and the animals. I connect with a good animal story. And then Fantasia, just because I appreciate like the risks it takes.
Yeah.
And then Snow White, I really enjoy the story. I know it's the time again, but I find Snow White's voice a little bit grating for a viewing experience.
I do agree for the singing. It's a little screechy. I have Fantasia as my top in this era, and then I have let's see here. I have Bambi actually on my last rank, and I had that as my lowest. But I do admire and respect every film in this series, and I have Dumbo at 13, so I have it pretty high.
Yeah.
I think it's so cute, and like it's a shame. I feel like they're kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater with Dumbo, because the whole message of the movie is about acceptance and the fact that Timothy Hugh Mouse defends Dumbo and that they end up being friends. So it seems a shame because of the the dated parts that you throw out the good parts sometimes.
I agree.
But to each their own, I guess. For some people, it's just a tough one. But what about you, Stanford? What do you think?
So Snow White is the top of my list from this era. Bottom one is Pinocchio, although all of them are in my top 25.
Yeah.
Because I just think they're all magnificent films.
Yeah, they're all in my top 30.
In their own right. Pinocchio scares the crap out of me. but I respect it a lot, but still it's not one that I like watch for enjoyment, I mean, other than just I'm in awe of the artistry. I still can't believe how in the world did they animate those underwater sequences the way they did.
I think that those still have yet to be topped. Like, I mean, the animation, especially in the monster scenes, is amazing.
And that's the thing with this era is it's hard to really talk negatively toward any of them. As you said, we've all have them pretty high, at least in the top halves of our overall canon ranking, because you just have to respect what they did. I mean, it's just amazing artistry on display with each of them.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's talk about the package era. We mentioned it a couple times. So this is Saludos Amigos through Ichabod and Mr. Toad. So what is your top and bottom for the package era?
So my top for the package era is Ichabod and Mr. Toad, the Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. I think it's actually quite a clever and fun film. It's kind of a package film because it's 2 different stories mashed into this one movie, but I think it's fun. I think it's a funny film. I think it has a lot of charm. It has that little edge of darkness to it that I enjoy as well. So that's my favorite. My least favorite when it comes to this, well, it's probably the 3 Caballeros, because it just, I don't know, it's very strange to me. It's just all of it was very strange. I don't know. We have these birds lusting after this woman.
It's a lot of the movie is Donald chasing Skirt.
It's a lot. I was like, what is going on here? Why are they chasing after this woman? He's just,
Well, and not even just one woman. He's at the beach.
Well, yeah. I prefer angry Donald. So, I like
angry Donald.
Free. That's fun. Hilarious. That's more my jam. Angry, mad, delusional Donald. He's mad about some jelly beans, some magic beans. I like that. This Donald, not my favorite.
Not your thing.
This is one. A lot of these actually on the Disney Plus, which Make Mine Music is not on Disney Plus. Had to go.
Which is so weird.
It's so weird.
And this, I don't know. It's it's not. It can't be for offensive reasons, because I feel like it's less offensive than some of these other ones.
Just it seems like it's just an oversight. Put it on to people.
So they all have like the little disclaimer on Disney Plus about like the cultural images, but I'm just like, why did Disney had such a fascination with Latin America and the women of Latin America, apparently.
Well, and we've said many times that I think the story behind Saludos Amigos and Three Caballeros is more interesting than the actual movies themselves.
Yeah.
Because like the State Department came to them and said, like, we're worried that South America, Latin America is going to be very influenced by the Nazis. And we want to change that. We want to make them feel good, and loved and everything. And so they had this whole mission down there. They brought all the animators down there and they created these basically kind of propaganda pieces through Disney to help them not become Nazis. So like it was very interesting. It's like a really interesting story. Yeah. The movies themselves are just like fine.
Yeah, watch the documentary Walt and El Grupo. I think it's on Disney Plus. That's tells the story of this, and it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's
interesting.
And better than films.
What do you have as your top and bottom?
Just like Larry's excellent choices. Ichabod and Mr. Toad is the top, and then the Three Caballeros at the bottom. I have the three package films, then the Three Caballeros. So they're all together at near the very bottom of my list, total list. But the Three Caballeros, I just don't care for it all.
Yeah, I do have Ichabod and Mr. Toad at 30, and then I have Make My Music at 33, just because I think it's really weird, and sometimes I just like things that are weird. It feels like they went around the office and like collected all of the half done like sloppy seconds, and there's something kind of interesting about that to me. But yeah, and I love Willie the Whale. It's so bizarre.
Well, the whale who wanted to sing in the mat.
Yeah.
I was telling Rachel, like, my gosh, I mean, I guess that's pretty daring too. I mean, they literally kill the whale. The male whale gets murdered in this one.
Well, then there's that whole speech of like, well, people didn't care about Willie, and so he died. Like, but my lowest is Saludos Amigos, partly just because I don't really think it's a real movie. Like it's only 45 minutes. So I think that it's harmless. Like I don't like hate it, but I don't know. I just have a hard time thinking about it as like an actual movie. So that's why I have it at the lowest. But all right. So then we have the silver era. So we have Cinderella through, I think, what did we do it through?
Jungle Book?
The Jungle Book. Yeah.
Yes.
So what would be your top and bottom there?
So this one is a little bit more clear cut on the bottom for sure. And that's The Sword and the Stone. I just, no. King Arthur is a very difficult thing to adapt. The films have tried, and there are very few good ones.
Isn't it interesting that there's just so few good ones because it's such a cool story.
I'll defend the Guy Ritchie one. Rachel hates it. I'm one of the few defenders of the Guy Ritchie. I prefer the Guy Ritchie to the Disney, if I'm being honest. But
yeah. I mean, I don't mind the one with Richard Gere and Sean Connery. I think that one's pretty good. But yeah,
it's just weird. Like, I don't know. Upon rewatching it, because I rewatched it because we did kind of a King Arthur retrospective recently on a different podcast I was doing like 2 years ago. So I was like, I need to rewatch The Sword and the Stone because it was for the Green Knight. We were talking about King Arthur films for the Green Knight, and so I was like, let me rewatch Sword and Stone. Maybe I was too hard on it. No, I wasn't too hard on it. It's very strange. Madam Mim is fun. She's like a fun little.
She's introduced so late.
Weird. Exactly. If she had just been there, if like I don't know if they had utilized her better. Merlin is. I don't know. I don't love the depiction of Merlin in this. I just
And Arthur is supposedly learning these lessons, but he doesn't actually learn anything. No. Like in each of the ones, somebody else solves the problem, whether it's the owl or the squirrel being her heart broken. And like he doesn't actually walk away having learned anything. So when he pulls the sword from the stone, you're just like, what? Why did he do that? Like, it made no sense.
Kid, move to the side. That's not for you.
Yeah, and I think the only really good thing, because the animation's terrible as well. I really dislike the animation. The only really good thing about Sword in the Stone is like some of the Sherman Brothers songs are fun, like Higatus Figatus is kind of fun, and I think the Wizard's Duel at the end is fun.
Yeah.
That's about it for me. I agree. That's my lowest.
Yeah, mine too.
Oh, okay, good. We got the lowest out of the way. I feel like we may not agree on the top one because there's a lot of obviously classics in this era as well. I enjoy all the rest of them to an extent or another. But ultimately, I think, and this is possibly because of my grandmother's affinity for this film, so I had just loved it with her growing up, and that is The Jungle Book is my top rated. Also, upon rewatch, I guess I didn't realize growing up as a kid how this Mowgli is a little bit of a brat. Every now and then I'm like, Bagheera, just swat him in the head a couple times. Like he is being quite a brat right now. And the end is also a little weird to me.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's the part that I think they actually improved in the remake was the very end of the movie. They didn't go with that little girl, like love. I was like, no. Like, wait, what is this? But everything else I love about it.
For a long time, Disney loved the like insta love hypnotized thing.
Oh, yeah.
You see it in Jungle Book and Fox and the Hound and in a bunch of different movies. And I hate that. It's not my favorite. So I agree. That I don't love the ending, but it's fun.
Great.
The
Bagheera's
songs,
great. Shere Khan is one of the most like intimidating Disney villains ever. This era, we have both Maleficent and Shere Khan in this era. Like, the Disney villains were on point. The evil, wicked stepmother is also horrifying. She is. One of the scariest real world villains in any Disney film.
Yeah. In Jungle Book, I mean, the songs, unbelievable.
So good.
I want to be like you. For me, my favorite is Cinderella, but I do have Sleeping Beauty and 101 Dalmatians pretty high in my top 10. I have all three of those in my top 10, but Cinderella, I love Cinderella as a story. I think it's kind of an underdog story at its heart. And I like that, and Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, and the great artwork. Mary Blair inspired artwork is just beautiful, fun songs, and I think the stepsisters are really fun. Lady Tremaine, great villain. I mean, how brilliant to name the cat Lucifer, hilarious.
Gus Gus.
Yeah, Gus.
Oh, the mice.
A lot of people don't like the mice, but I like.
How could you not love Gus Gus?
I know.
Makes me think of You've Got Mail when Tom Hanks is like, what if she talks like the mice in Cinderella? I can't think of that. But yeah, I love Cinderella, and so that's my favorite. And Sword in the Stone. What about you, Stanford?
Oh, it's The Jungle Book. Yeah, such a sentimental favorite. And I love the music so much. And it's just that's a go-to movie for me. I love it.
Look for that bare necessity.
The one in this era that I don't love as much as other people is Peter Pan. That's like
I'm the only person that likes Peter Pan.
It's like if Sword in the Stone weren't here, which is like so far
Peter
below,
Pan.
like it's not even close. How the gap between Peter Pan and Sword in the Stone is quite large for me. But if we took Sword in the Stone and put it in like the last era, Peter Pan would certainly be my bottom film of the rest.
No, I agree with you. I have Peter Pan at 40, and I have Sword in the Stone at 51.
Yeah.
So there is a gap, but it is my second lowest of this era. And it has some beautiful animation. It has some really funny jokes. I mean, a Hook is just basically one giant, like hilarious joke. And I like that. But the way they treat Wendy is like really upsetting. I mean, she hasn't done anything wrong, and everybody's trying to kill her at every Like the mermaids are trying to kill her. Lost Boys are trying to kill her.
Well,
Like, what did she do? That was
What
so
did she
terrible.
do?
sometimes you just have a they say punchable face. Maybe it's a killable face. I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, you got like the Red Men Red. That's awkward.
Yeah,
Not
well.
great.
And the fact that they keep trying, I don't know, they keep every like new adaptation also doesn't really address it right. I don't know.
Yeah.
Every time they get to the Tiger Lily and all that, it's like, oh, we still haven't really updated this in a meaningful way in all of these adaptations in recent years. So who knows? Maybe they will finally with this new one from David Lowery.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have faith. I love David Lowery. Just talked about the Green Knight, which I adored, but I also
David
adored
Lowery.
the dragon. Peach Dragon, so much better than the original.
Agreed.
For me. So much
Agreed.
Because I don't like Peach Dragon.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And just I think it's by far the best of these live action remakes. And he's managed to keep his voice, whether he's doing a studio film or doing a small film. And that's really hard to do. Very difficult. So it's super impressive. But yeah, so I am looking forward to it just because of him. Otherwise, I would be like not interested at all.
I'm sad it exists, but I'm glad that at least they've got a good director behind it and optimistic that he's made a good film.
Because Zemeckis, when is the last time Zemeckis gave us like a good film? Like, I mean, we couldn't really have much faith with Pinocchio.
Who framed Roger Rabbit?
It's been so long, Zemeckis.
The last one, what? Forrest Gump? I mean,
yeah, Forrest Gump. Didn't you do some kind of thriller with Julia? Who was in that? Was it Michelle Pfeiffer? Anyway.
Oh yeah.
What Lies Beneath? I think.
Lies Beneath.
Yeah, which I remember thinking was good. But then I love Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah. Who does? It's been. I mean, that one with The Walk wasn't good, but it was kind of entertaining. Or Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I'm going to walk on my wire, that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I had forgotten about that film until you just mentioned it.
Forgot that.
It's not like a great movie, but it's kind of entertaining.
It's
entertaining spectacle. Like, it was well shot.
Yeah. But it's been rough. But yeah, there's like this whole, not to go on a tangent, but there's this whole crop of directors from the 80s that have not successfully transitioned to the digital era very well. You got your Chris Columbus, your Tim Burton, your Robert Zemeckis, your Rob Reiners. Like they have a hit here and there, kind of a thing, but it just seems like there's this crop that have struggled, in my opinion. But anyway, well, let's talk, speaking of the 80s, let's talk about the Aristocrats through Oliver and Company. So the Bronze Era, this is called. What is your favorite and least favorite of this era?
Yeah, so this is an interesting crop. A lot of lows here. There's another low period for Disney through the 80s and the 70s. I would have to go with The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh being my favorite amongst them. Eeyore speaks to me on a very spiritual level in all mediums. So, but it's just cute. It's an adorable set of like stories, and I mean, who doesn't love Winnie the Pooh and gang? And they're at their like most adorable here. I do also think that the 2011 one is really good as well. I think they actually did a really good job at kind of reimagining that. But this one is great. It is a decently close second because I've always just had a soft spot for The Fox and the Hound. I love a depressing story. And The Fox and the Hound fits the bill.
I can't with that poem.
It's just, and they're so, again, we want to talk about cute characters when these two are little babies. It's so cute. I do think the first half is stronger, like when they are little, stronger than the devastating like second half.
The poem. The poem.
But overall, I do have a soft spot for The Fox and the Hound. As for my least, well, it could Aristocats is close because but it has one good song that saves it. Like Everybody Wants to Be a Cat, like literally is like the only thing that uplifts Aristocats for me, because the rest of the movie I'm not a fan. But ultimately the Black Cauldron is last for me amongst this group. I know I just said I like a dark story, but it didn't really have a good story, good characters. It just didn't have anything really that stuck out, anything all that great to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just kind of, I don't think the animation is that great either. It has like one or two moments, but overall as a film, yeah, that's my least favorite.
Yeah, I agree. I have the Black Cauldron at 55, so very low. And then I have the Aristocats at 52. I have Oliver and Company at 48. So it's a little bit rough period. But I have The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh at 14. That's my highest. And then I have The Great Mouse Detective at 15.
Oh.
It would probably be on my list if I was going to say like one of the more underrated Disney films, because I think it's a super fun story. I think the villain is pretty scary and funny at the same time. Ratigan, I enjoy him, and then this very strange mouse burlesque scene. I think that is crazy.
Which doesn't move the plot for. I mean, it's the weirdest. Yeah, like what is this? Henry Mancini wrote a song. They're like, okay, well, we'll animate it.
So weird. And I when I watched it for the canon the first time, I was like, what is this scene? I don't even remember this scene, because we're big Sherlock Holmes people in my family who love like any version except for series 4 of Sherlock, which I will never forgive them. It was so bad. It's Stephen Moffat so much for that. But aside from that, for the most part, we're big Sherlock Holmes fans in our family. And so we watched Great Mouse Detective all the time. And I never remembered that scene. And I was like, Mom, what was this stripper scene in the middle of this movie? And she was like, oh yeah, I always skip that part when we watched. So yeah, anyway, that's parenting. It's called parenting. But what about you, Stanford?
So Black Cauldron it's number 61, for me.
Yeah.
Just no matter how many times I try, I really dislike that film.
Yeah, the characters are just so annoying.
Yeah, the whole thing. And I think I'm the only person in America that likes The Rescuers. So The Rescuers is my top one of this era, and I have it actually in my top 10. I have it at number 9. It's a sentimental favorite. I just loved it as a kid, and I could watch it anytime. I just adore it.
Yeah. So. Where do you have Rescuers?
I have it, not high.
Yeah, exactly. They said I'm the only person in America that likes this movie.
It's at like 42 for me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I have it at 54. So you're higher than me. I can't stand Medusa. I think she is just there's just too much of her, and she's just too like mean. Like I know she's supposed to be a villain, but like I don't know. I just don't enjoy it. I feel like because what they do with 101 Dalmatians is they use just enough acrylic, because she's actually not in the movie that much. Yeah. It's Jasper and Horace that's with the dogs the most, and they were trying to like replicate Cruella when they made Medusa, but the problem was she's just in it so much, and she's just so mean to this little girl, and I don't know, I just find it unpleasant. I don't enjoy it, but I know that Stanford loves it.
They said, and I acknowledge I'm the only one who likes it.
One of these days, and one of these, we're gonna find somebody
else out there.
Yeah.
Oh, but all right. Well, let's talk about the Renaissance. And I think we all have the same number 1 for the Renaissance, all 3 of us.
Yeah, we do. I saw
so
that.
Why don't you tell us, Larry, what your number 1 is?
Yeah, so as a 90s baby, regardless of quality, because arguably the greatest era for many folks, obviously I love the Renaissance era. This was my era of Disney, the one I grew up on watching constantly. My first ever theater experience was The Lion King, so a Renaissance film. And I actually have 5 Renaissance films in my top 10 favorite Disney films of all time. So, they kind of dominate the top of my list. But ultimately, it's my favorite Disney film, period. So it's not really a shock. So my number one from the Renaissance and for Disney overall of all time, my favorite animated film of all time, period, is Beauty and the Beast.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah,
I adore it. I love it. It's one of my favorite movies, period, of all time.
Yeah.
I think the characters are fantastic. Obviously, the animation is just kind of on a next level from anything we had seen from the studio. They had dabbled in it with Aladdin, with some of this like melding of the two different styles, but I think they really utilized it perfectly in Beauty and the Beast. The music is amazing. The messaging is also wonderful. I know it gets, like all the princess movies, it gets its criticisms, but I think they're quite unfounded when it comes to Belle and her criticisms. So yeah, I love Beauty and the Beast. So easily my number one. But you both have it there too?
Yes, we do.
I do go back and forth between Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast because Little Mermaid was the first movie I ever really loved. I just loved the music so much and I loved the story. So, but then I also love the music and the story in Beauty and the Beast. And it also has a big nostalgia for me. It was just a couple of years later, so I didn't have quite that like formative part for me, but I still really love both movies. I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I guess I have 3 from the era in my top. No, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 from the era in my top 10. So I have Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, and Mulan in my top 10.
Yeah, mine are Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King, Aladdin, Mulan, and then Hercules. It's in my top 10.
Yes. And then my lowest is Pocahontas, just because I find her very annoying. I find her.
Stop it, Rachel, with that narrative about Pocahontas as a character.
No, she's so annoying.
You can criticize the movie, but stop that narrative about her character.
She's the worst. And I do love the animation. I think it's very beautiful, and I like the songs are great. So I don't hate it, but I do have it at 50 in my ranking.
My last is Rescuers Down Under. I think it's an improvement over the first one. I actually like Down Under more than I like the Rescuers.
Me too.
But it's still, I mean, it's fun. It's perfectly fine. Like it's a fun little adventure. It just doesn't hold up to the rest in this. If it were in a different era, it would probably be higher. If it had fallen in the Rescuers era, it'd probably be like number 2. But here in the Renaissance, it's my least favorite.
What about you, Stanford?
So of course, Beauty and the Beast, number 1. Which we've already established. For me, the last one is The Hunchback of Notre Dame. There is so much I like about this film, and so much that I want to like, but the uneven tone of it. I mean, I think it was almost a questionable story to make into an animated film. I mean, here we are talking about animation is film, but to try to fit it within the Disney genre, so with the funny sidekicks and anyway, it was tough because I think the music is spectacular, and I love the theme, and I love the respectful way that they treat Quasimodo, but they divert so much or they change the book so much too, because I've read the book. And anyway, and by the time you get to is it a guy like you? What's the one with this with the gargoyles?
Yeah.
Doing that cutesy song to Quasimodo, I just want to puke, you know.
And when you think of it in the story, it's actually really mean what they're doing, because they know he's like not going to get the girl, and so for them to be singing the song is kind of mean.
Yeah, it's mean, but you know, like the first 10 minutes of the film, they're stunning. The God Help the Outcasts is one of the most beautiful things I think put on film. It's, you know, and then some of this other stuff happens, and I just think, dang, I wish I liked this movie more. But
Hellfire cements Frollo as like one of the most terrifying villains in Disney.
That Hellfire
Hellfire is like terrifying.
It's so scary.
I mean, I'm very mixed on these Disney Broadway adaptations. Some I like, and some I really don't like. Like the Mary Poppins is not for me. But I do think that the Hunchback of Notre Dame adaptation, like, basically improves upon everything. Like every problem that I have.
Said, Rich. I have another close friend that said the same thing. I've got to see a stage production of it.
Yeah.
Hunchback is just actually literally like just a position or two above Rescuers Down Under for me. It's just those little shining moments that are so good in the Hunchback that if only them dang gargoyles.
I know.
Like, get out of the way, gargoyle.
Yeah, maybe they need to do like they have the despecialized editions of Star Wars. Maybe we need to do that.
Right.
But yeah, I have it at 45, so pretty low. So I agree. All right, so then we have Fantasia 2000 through Princess and the Frog, I think is where, or did we do Bolt or Princess and the Frog for post Renaissance? I think Princess and the Frog. Yeah. Then we start with
Princess
Tangled.
and the Frog, not the kick to
maybe that's the revival. So through Bolt, let's do
Bolt.
Let's do Bolt. So yeah, Fantasia 2000 through Bolt. And what do you have as your favorite and least favorite?
Okay, so my least favorite, I think, will probably be all of our least favorites, and that's Home on the Range.
Yes.
It's just really grating and annoying.
So horrible.
These characters are really not likable. It's not funny. And look, you know, she's controversial now and doing whatever she's doing. But in the 90s, I loved the Roseanne show. I thought it was really funny. No, not here. Roseanne, I don't know what was going on, but Home on the Range just is horrible. Chicken Little's not that far above it, because once again, talk about grading characters, but it just has a few more cute elements that put it above something like Home on the Range, which is just like pure like annoyance. For my top spot, I have Lilo and Stitch. I think it's just cute. It's a really nice message as well about family, about adoptive families, about grieving, like particularly with Lilo kind of having to find her own little way in this world with just her big sister and how this little creature comes into her life. I also used to love this show that was on the Disney Channel growing up through the 2000s. But I think the songs in it are cute enough, and the messaging is just really, really what sells it. It's an emotional film that works for me.
Yeah, I that one has grown on me. At first I didn't like it because I just thought it was too much. Like, especially once they destroy the house, and I'm like, this is just so heavy. But over the years I've grown to appreciate it more. The family dynamic, that Ohana means family, and no one gets left behind, and the beautiful animation and the songs. So I appreciate it. My favorite is The Emperor's New Groove. From that, I have it at 19. And then my least favorite is also On the Range, which I hate so much.
Eartha Kitt with one of the best like voice performances. What a great celebrity voice casting for Eartha Kitt.
Yeah, seriously.
It does have my favorite joke in all of Disney. The wrong lover. Why do we even have that lever? I also love when she gets transformed and she's like, my voice. That's so funny. But, so yeah, that one's my favorite. Yeah, and Home on the Range is just insufferable. It really feels like, I know that making animated films hard. I know they probably did work hard, but as far as like from concept to story to everything else, it feels lazy. Even though I know that it probably wasn't. And I'm sure if I talked to the animators, they'd be like, we tried really hard, but
yeah, I think this is like when they had terrible management at the time that just took the whole thing down. It's horrible. That's my pick too. However, I just wanted to say that I've got 4 films from that era in my bottom 5. So,
it's crowded.
Brother Bear, Chicken Little, Home on the Range, and Dinosaur. Bless them. I hate them all.
I just tell you, as a kid, obviously that loved Jurassic Park, the marketing for Dinosaur was so good. Like they got me so excited as a little kid to go watch Dinosaur because the marketing looked amazing. Like
the trailer, like it looked so
this
beautiful,
innovative, beautiful thing. And I will say, I do think the animation was really well done, and it was like
it was gorgeous to look at
for that first part. For that first part, and then once they get
then
to
it just goes gray.
Then it becomes just kind of gray and brown.
And the story is just
I mean, I also have, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I have 3 in my bottom 5 as well. I have Dinosaur, Home on the Range. No, 4, because I have Dinosaur, Home on the Range, Brother Bear, and Chicken Little in my bottom 5.
Same.
Yeah.
And then the Black Cauldron rounds it all off. And In-Person Groove is my top one. Love that movie. So fun.
All right. Well, so we've asked this of all of our guests. Do you feel like there is a post-revival era? And where would you start that if you were going to? So we have revival, we have Princess and the Frog through to what? And then where would you start it? The new era?
I think we are. It's so hard because obviously Rachel knows, being in the YouTube film space, you're always ranking stuff or like coming up with like, and you want to rank the different eras of Disney. And I do still see people like with the release of Treasure or with Strange World. I saw people doing a revival era ranking. So it is really kind of in a weird place still. I would say almost when we got the sequels, it feels like they should crack off into a new era, like Frozen 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet and such. Feel like maybe they should not be in the same era as their predecessors. It's just hard because they haven't really changed in style. That's the other thing, because there hasn't been a big shift in style per se, but there has been a shift of like no villains. And
generational trauma. I would put personally, I think I would put Ralph Breaks the Internet onward as the Jennifer Lee era. And then I would have Princess and the Frog through Moana as the John Lasseter era, revival era. That's how I think of it. I know. What do you think, Stanford?
That's how I agree, and that's what I'd call it too. Jennifer Lee era. And where it starts, I'd almost start it with I appreciate that putting the sequels in it. That makes total sense. And I've often wondered too, does it start with Raya and the Last Dragon? Because I feel that's where I feel like Jennifer Lee really started to have ownership of the studio around that, time. Even though I know these movies have been in development for for years, but still,
Because I mean, I guess Moana starts us with the like no villain era, but I still think she should be in the revival. I think she solidly feels there.
Absolutely.
But like Ralph Breaks the Internet doesn't really have a villain. Frozen 2 really doesn't have a villain. Raya has an anti-hero style villain. Like all of these movies just don't have like an actual villain to them, or the villain that starts the movie is not really the villain by the end of the movie.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Merch Store. Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarky's merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
Thematically, that kind of is where I also always did. I know we did just talk about it. It does feel kind of weird to start this with Princess and the Frog and Winnie the Pooh as well to me, just because they're 2D. So stylistically, they're so different. And to have Winnie the Pooh be between Princess and the Frog and then the rest of them feels weird because it's a lot of, princess. We're returning to the princess films with Princess and the Frog and Tangled and Frozen, Moana. But to have Winnie the Pooh just kind of like dropped in there. It's like, oh, yeah, okay.
So if we're doing Princess and the Frog through Moana, what would be your favorite, least favorite?
So I mean, I guess I'll just say this, whether we were doing it through Moana or all the way through Strange World, my favorite is Moana. I adore Moana. I think it's so good. I think the music in it is amazing. Pretty much every song is fantastic in that film, and the original score is also fantastic with Ali'i Cravaho just killing it on those vocals. I mean, she sounds so good.
So good.
Even in her live performance when she got hit in the head with that flag, she carried on like a champ.
She did. That's right.
At such a young age, and it's so nice to see and this is something in the 90s, with the Renaissance era, I think they don't get enough credit for, with the depictions of obviously Pocahontas, very much veering away from the real life story. However, the singing voices, maybe not, and Aladdin specifically, not so much, but after Aladdin, they really started to cast appropriate people behind the voice casting, including Pocahontas, including Mulan. These actors started to come in. And with Moana, it's just so refreshing to see a young person play Moana, our princess, literally a girl who could walk into the live action set. Ali'i Cravaho is Moana in live action form. So it's really nice to have that. The animation is just amazing. I mean, some of the most beautiful water animation I've ever seen is still done in Moana. I mean, it just looks so fantastic. And I like this message as well. I was somebody who I really liked not having a villain in this case, because I think it lent itself really well to what story they were telling. As for my least favorite, it's hard in this set of films because actually I do enjoy all of them. I enjoy every single one in this shortened down era that we just did. So I know it might kill Rachel, but Tangled is probably at the bottom of the list for me on this one. I think it's really fun. It's really funny. I still have it up at number 29 on my list overall. So it's still pretty high. I don't know. That's just what it is for me. It's fun. Yeah. It's cute. It's not quite as good as Frozen. Those are the two that kind of battle it out right there. Winnie the Pooh just has this sweetness to it that I love, that puts it above. And then Wreck-It Ralph, I adore. I adore that film. So it's pretty high for me. I like what it says about toxic masculinity a lot. So yeah.
Well,
long story short, Moana, Tangled.
My favorite is Tangled because I love the story. I love the fact that it's basically a romantic comedy. It's the first one that they ever really did, maybe except for if you consider Aladdin. But that both of the romantic leads are, fleshed out, developed. There's lots of banter between the two. love that. Love Flynn and Rapunzel. I love Mother Gothel. I think she's amazing. And it's really the last like true villain with a villain song that we've gotten from Disney. And so it's like become more meaningful even since. And I was really kind of off of Disney at that point, aside from Pixar, I guess. The trailers were not doing it for me. And I was like, oh, but my sister wanted to see it. And so I have a much younger sister, 18 years younger than me. She really wanted to see it. And so we went and saw it, and I was just blown away. The lantern scene, I couldn't believe. I thought it was so beautiful. And I don't know, a lot of people don't like the songs. I really enjoy the songs. So I love Tangled. It's actually my number 3 favorite of the whole canon. But I also love Frozen. I have it at 12. I love Moana. I have it at 11. So yeah, I have a lot of favorites of this kind of era. But my least favorite is actually Princess and the Frog. I'm not a big Wreck-It Ralph fan. I mean, I think it's fine. I just don't love it. Kind of like similar with you. And Tangled. But once it gets to Sugar Rush, I think it like becomes very generic for me. But it's fine. But Princess and the Frog was just so disappointing for me. I was so excited for it, and I just didn't really like the story. It's so convoluted. And she turns into a frog for most of the movie, and I really don't like Naveen. I think he's not worthy of Tiana. I think he's kind of a scoundrel even to the end. I don't like him. And so it's just so disappointing. Had so much potential. I think that hopefully with this Tiana show, they'll be able to kind of make it better. It does have some catchy songs. It has some beautiful animation, but it is my least favorite. So what about you, Stanford?
Well, Rachel, just the same. Tangled is my top, and for the Princess and the Frogs at the bottom. Tangled I have at number 10. My overall is at number 10. I just feel like it's where finally Walt Disney Animation Studios figured out how to use CG animation and make it really feel Disney and capture a fairy tale, I thought, in a very fresh way. I love I love the music, I love the comedy, I love the romance. I just think it's a knockout. And I was so disappointed with the Princess and the Frog. I was so excited for it, and so disappointed with the story. There's so much. I just thought it had so much potential, and it didn't work as far as the story goes. But I love, I think Tiana's a great princess, and glad she's getting a lot of attention. And yeah, how about Tiana series if they ever can release it, whatever's happening to it. Hopefully it's gonna be good.
Nichole Rose is so fantastic.
Oh, I love a Nichole Rose so much. Yeah.
All right. Well, so this Jennifer Lee era that we have, Ralph Breaks the Internet Through Strange World. What do you have as your top and bottom of that one, Larry?
Okay, so let me look through. Oh, I'm a little bit sad because I didn't want this to be my last, but it is, because I'm like not really a defender, but almost a defender of the movie, just because I'm so sad at how Disney sabotaged it from making money. And that's Strange World, unfortunately, is my last place here. It's also the kind of movie that, like, in live action, I have fun with, but maybe I'm not as up on as a lot of people, that kind of like old school pulpy adventure. I need a lot of fantasy to go with pulpy adventures to make me like really into it. Adventure stuff is like, okay, fine. So right off the bat, it was a little bit like, okay. But then it has some really creative world building. I really like our main character, the son, and I like the dog, and I loved Splat. but that message gets really muddled. Like this is an environmental message that just doesn't work. It doesn't really make sense. So they tried to do a lot. They just tried to do too much. They tried to address the generational trauma. They obviously had a lot going on character-wise, and then they have this overarching environmental message that doesn't really work out like I think they were hoping it would. As for my favorite in this, it's really close, actually. I have 3 that are like between 9 and 12 on my list, and that's between Zootopia, Encanto, and Raya. I know Rachel has her little problems with Raya, but I love Raya. But ultimately, out of the 3, my favorite has to be Zootopia.
Now, Zootopia would be before.
Oh, is
Moana.
that's the previous one? My bad. Look at me go.
Yeah.
Moana's still number 1 in that one. So it's Encanto then is my favorite in this this generational trauma Jennifer Lee era of filmmaking.
Yes.
One, I think it does the generational trauma the best out of any of the films that have tackled it in Disney. Not quite as good for me as like Everything Everywhere All at Once, but it did it the best of the Disney canon.
The Disney ones, yeah.
The songs are great, though I will say they weren't as instantly like love for me as the Moana Lin-Manuel Miranda songs. Like those songs out of the theater was just like I need the soundtrack now. Encanto coming out, I think maybe it's because they didn't have as strong of singers in Encanto as they did for like Ali Carvalho. But man, once you get like, we don't talk about Bruno or some of these others in your head, I mean, it's impossible. That's why I went number 1 on Billboard, because it's just like, it gets stuck. It's a literal earworm, like you're done.
Yeah.
But I think the animation is stunning. Obviously, it was really amazing to get a Latinx family as like our center of this story, particularly our first real foray into that in Disney. We've had lots of other cultural stories told, so it was really nice to get this cultural story told. And once again, it's a really nice message about what makes you special and feeling like an outsider. Of course, it's a nice ongoing theme of Disney movies, but I think it works really well here with Mirabel, and having the person without powers be the one to save the day in a superhero laden world is a really nice thing for kids to see, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with you. I have Encanto I have it at 18. So in my top 20, and I actually have Strange World really low. I have it at 56. Because when I just started to think about all the movies, like, would I rather watch something like Atlantis or I don't know, Treasure Planet, things like that? I would rather watch those than Strange World. The thing I didn't like about Strange World was I didn't like how argumentative the family was. That the father and then the grandfather just spent most of the movie just fighting all the time, to the point that the son ends up running off and getting upset and fight. Like, I felt more for him, but it still was just like a very contentious movie, in my opinion, and I didn't enjoy that. And I mean, oddly enough, I thought the most interesting or entertaining part of the movie was when they all got locked in that closet. And I'm like, this is a great adventure movie. That shouldn't be the most entertaining part of the movie, is being locked in the closet.
In the closet.
And
trying to get it right. It's the only time they like work together.
Yeah, and I really think they thought this reveal that it's that when you see the eye and it's like, oh, they thought we were all going to be blown away by that and be like, what? This whole thing's taking place in an organism? Like that this is an eye? And you knew from the minute they said that this was acid that they were in, and this ship was special because it could withstand acid. I was like, okay, they're in an animal. It was obvious. And so it just didn't have that like wow factor of the reveal that I think they wanted. And I think that's part of the reason why they were so hush hush on the advertising. I think they didn't, you can always tell when Disney doesn't really believe in one of their films. So that's part of it. But also, I think that they were like trying to keep this like great surprise, that they didn't want to spoil or whatever. And it was just it did not pay off, I don't think. But it does have some nice animation. There are some nice moments. It did representation well, I think. I just really didn't like all the fighting, and the reveal did not pay off for me. So it is my lowest. And then Encanto, I really did like the story. I love the animation. I love Maribella's character. Bruno, we don't talk about Bruno. I love that song from the very first watch. I love that song.
Same.
And so, and I like that it was a whole family story. Because, somebody like me that comes from a big family, I could definitely relate to a lot of the dynamics between the siblings and the cousins and all of that. So that was unique and fun. And that one's my favorite. What about you, Stanford?
I just am following both of your excellent examples. Encanto is my top, and Strange World is my bottom. I was so excited for Strange World, and just thought the whole thing was weird. That I didn't feel like the company. I think that they given up on it before it even was released, and everything that you both have said about it. And then Encanto, like same, everything that you both said about it, because it's just so terrific. So anyway, yeah.
Let's hope now, particularly that Chapek is out and gone, that Disney will start marketing again, because
amen.
I really feel it's not just Strange World. I think Strange World was the worst of it, where they just like left it out to die. But I don't think the marketing on Encanto was all that great either. Pre-release, they didn't even have toys ready. Like, they were not prepared for that. Or Raya and the Last Dragon also. I know that got hindered quite a bit by the pandemic, because it came out like right as the pandemic hit. But neither of those. The one thing I'll give Rachel, even though I will never agree with her, I do not think Raya should be a musical at all. I enjoy it the way it is.
I don't either, Lair.
I do not agree, Rachel. But I will say,
Rach.
the one positive Encanto had in comparison to something like Raya or Strange World in the post-release is those songs. So once Encanto hit Disney Plus, it had that insane rewatchability factor. Partially, I think, because the story is, just light, easy. Not light because, if you watch reactions on YouTube, most people start crying at some point in the film. But it has those songs, obviously, again, that are earworms, and so I think it did help that film market itself when Disney didn't market the film properly. So that's the one advantage I'll give it, but leave Raya without the song.
I just think that it has the right spots for songs, and I think that we would be talking about it more, because it would have this other layer of enjoyment that I think that like something like Frozen 2, because it has those great songs, it elevates it, and it's a somewhat similar story in a lot of ways.
Frozen 2 is quite divisive, though, Rachel. It's quite the divisive film. A lot of people have it very low, I would say, on their personal Disney rankings.
A lot of people are wrong. No, I'm just kidding. I have
it above the original Frozen.
I have Frozen 2 at 22. So
I have it at 24.
Yeah, so we're pretty close.
Yeah, I think the songs are great. Actually, I think it's a really mature film. I just kind of like the direction they went in with it.
Yes.
I also like Ralph Breaks the Internet, and that's quite a divisive film too. People hate Ralph Breaks the Internet.
I like it too, Larry.
We both.
Both Rachel and I like it a lot.
I like it a lot.
I have Ralph Breaks the Internet at 31.
I have it at 31 too.
Yeah, I have Raya and the Last Dragon at 28.
Oh, okay.
So there we go.
So how are you feeling about Disney really buckling down on these sequels right now? Sequelitis is all over.
3.
Frozen 3 on the way. Obviously, it's Pixar, but Toy Story 5 on the way. Zootopia 2 on the way.
Yeah. I just read today that I guess Kristen Anderson Lopez, that I guess she found out about it on Twitter. About Frozen 3, and they were like, cool, we're good.
Are we coming back
Like-
too? Yeah.
People
Are we
report-
signed on? That is
That's
Disney.
hilarious. I mean, I say they better bring back,
I mean,
Kristen
they
and
would
Bobby.
be insane. They would be insane not
It
to.
would. Like,
But-
you cannot do this movie without them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but there is a side of me that thinks, how many songs do they have for this world? Because they've already written, obviously, the 2 movies, plus
And the play.
plus the Broadway musical, plus the shorts that that they did. The one of them, the Olaf one, they didn't do. That was Kristen's sister who did that one,
right?
But the other ones they did. So that's a lot of Frozen songs. Like, how much? What do they tap out and be like, we don't have any more to offer?
We're done.
We're
done.
I guess not. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. Because I mean, when Bob Iger announced that, sorry to interrupt you, Rach. When Bob Iger announced it, I don't know if that's like the news that the movie fans initially won't want to hear, but maybe they're gonna work. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, I mean, we got this Wish coming up, and I'm nervous about it. They did this sizzle reel at D23, and it was super cringe. It was bad. It was all like, "We're the reason that people wish on stars and have dreams." And
oh yay!
we're like, oh, Disney.
Oh dear.
I wonder, I mean, I guess Zootopia is a big enough world, right, to like supplement a show and a new movie, a second film on the way. So I guess I think a lot of us were like, I could do with the Zootopia too.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
There's a lot of story to tell.
Yeah, because they did all these world building and they only spent like a few minutes in some of these worlds. And so and they could just have like a new case and for Judy and Nick, and I think that would be fun.
A really fun adventure. Yeah.
Frozen and Toy Story do pause though, because I am like, where's this story going? Like, what is the story now for both of those 2 franchises?
Right. Exactly.
I understand they both make a lot of money. I get it. Frozen 2 made like what, $1.34 billion.
Yeah, it's
it's the biggest animated film if you don't count that Lion King remake. The biggest animated film of all time.
Which, I mean, Disney doesn't even count that as an animated
The Golden
film.
Globes did. They nominated it for Best Animated Feature.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just tired. I am kind of tired of generational trauma. I'm tired of the surprise villain. I just want like a traditional villain, and I hope that they will do that for Wish. I've heard some rumors that that's what they're going to do.
Okay,
we'll see. But I just miss like fun, dishy, over the top Disney villains.
And honestly, when you think of like, again, like the most famous, the Disney films that really stand the test of time, half of that is the villain. Like, Little Mermaid. Yeah. I would say Ursula is pretty much almost as iconic as Ariel.
No
Maleficent is just as iconic, if not more so than Sleeping Beauty herself.
Right.
And Gaston is this big personality that people love. Scar,
Shere Khan, in the Jungle Book, and the Wicked Stepmother, as Larry mentioned already, from Cinderella, who's just like the scariest. Yeah.
And I think moving forward, they just need to assess the story. Like I said, I think for some films it works really well. Like I thought Moana worked beautifully without a villain. It didn't need it. It had a pseudo villain. Same thing like
Yamato.
I
kind of looked at Moana as sort of like the Odyssey. It had sort of a Greek epic feel to it, whereas like the Odyssey, they like have all these stopovers, these different like villains, and I feel like that was basically Moana. But it's been some Tangled. We haven't had Tangled, Princess and the Frog that we've had like a villain.
And Mother Knows Best to me is the best song in Tangled. So it's like
good one.
It's my favorite song of the whole movie. So.
I love it.
And Dr. Facilier is quite the intimidating villain.
He's scary.
He's scary
for Princess and the Frog as well. He's not the problem in that film script.
No, this is a strong villain. It's this, I thought, a very weak story. Yeah.
Yeah, because even like Big Hero 6, I mean, it's a surprise villain, but it's also kind of just a Marvel villain more so than a Disney villain. It feels like one of those cheap Marvel villains, like, oh, this is underwhelming. They're underwhelming. They're the least interesting part of this movie is the villain. We don't care about you, sir.
Yeah,
exactly.
That one is getting a series, right? Or what is that?
They already had a series.
They had a series.
It already has a series.
I thought there was an announcement. Oh, Baymax, the Baymax solo series, right? I was like, they have an upcoming series.
Which I think the Baymax series is already out there on Disney Plus, and maybe they're doing more sequels. But they are making an area in the Disney California Adventure Park. They're retheming it to Big Hero 6.
Okay.
San Francisco.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. I mean, that is kind of the last remaining area of the traditional California Adventure.
That was like California Adventure.
Yeah. But there wasn't IP driven as kind of the end of that. But it was a bad idea, I guess, to begin with. So, and last time I went to Disneyland, I went to that area and it was the smallest helpings I've ever seen. Like, I don't know, just crazy. Right. But like Bob Iger needs to work on that because it was seriously like tiny. And you're paying $30 for like Chinese food and you get like a small scoop.
You get like this little,
this little dollop on your plate. Here you go.
Like, geez.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there's a lot that Bob Iger, he's got his work cut out for him to get us back to where we were.
Ever. Holy smokes.
Woo, not been a fun few years, and now at least Marvel is being brought into the fold with all the drama they're experiencing currently. So all of the Disney things are under
everything's
scrutiny right
under
now.
Scrutiny and attack.
Pixar, they're under a slump currently. Everybody, the whole Disney umbrella is kind of in a slump.
Every 10 years this happens. It's really interesting with Disney. Every 10 years or so they go through this cycle. But have you been to Disneyland? Do you go to the parks?
I've only been to Disneyland and I've only been able to go once. So I do want to go again. It was like my junior year of high school. I got to go to Disneyland and then haven't been back. We were supposed to go to Disney World my senior year, but then my band instructor changed and the new one thought it would be a better idea to go to Branson, Missouri than Florida. Are you kidding me? Yeah, we were all not happy about that decision.
Seriously, Larry? Oh, my stars.
Well, that would be fun. You should let us know when you're going. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking with us. This was a blast and sharing your ranking. And why don't you tell people, we didn't really talk about it. Why don't you tell people about your tournament that you're doing and your videos that you're going to be having and everything else on your channel?
Yes. So over on my social medias, on Twitter and Instagram, I've been having people vote. It's a 128 animated film tournament to determine who we think is the best animated film of all time. Obviously, many of these Disney films were included. Quite a few have already gotten the boot, though, as we dwindle down and get going. But it's been a lot of fun. So, if it is still going on when this is posted, I don't know if it will, but maybe we're at the finale, I'm not sure. Head over there. But I'm always doing different tournaments like this, whether it be Thirst for very attractive people of Hollywood or random movies. Rachel joined me last time. We did a best Disney song tournament, actually.
And for the hot TV actors,
and she did the
rom-com actors.
The rom-com actors. So she's been over there for some of these
like
tournaments.
all these people are beautiful. They're all movie stars.
I know. I'm trying to think. I think the Circle of Life won the fan vote, and I think I'll make a man out of you won our
That was so
tournament
random.
for doing it for that. But we'll also be doing a live stream tournament. So make sure to tune in for that. Follow me on Twitter. You'll get the link. Subscribe to the channel. Over on my channel, I also have a top 50 favorite animated films of all time series. So it's 5 different videos of my favorites from throughout history. It's already at the point we get so many animated films that it feels outdated. I already have so many new faves that would crack that top 50 that it's outdated. But and after I've now seen them all, I think I have a couple I want to just give a brush up on. I think I'm going to go ahead and just do a complete Disney Canon ranking on the channel as well. So that should be fun.
Nice. And Stanford, how can people find you and your content?
On Twitter, I'm at Stanford Clark, and I have a movie podcast and blog at moviespastandpresent.com.
Yes. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And you can find us at Disney Talking on Twitter. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. And since this is such a long one, if you listen to the whole episode, put in your comment, hashtag Stan, Larry, Rachel animation. Then we'll know that you listened to the whole thing. So that will be fun. But yes, you check out the Patreon. We have lots of benefits, including the Facebook group, and also we have the weekly AFI Passions reviews that are just for patrons and are really fun. So please take a look at that. And then we also have the merch store. You can hashtag Animation Junkie shirts. So check that out. And thanks again, Larry. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.